When HyperX comes to mind, the first thing I picture is their gaming headsets. This is my first time with a HyperX product, and while their gaming headsets are wildly popular, I think HyperX is ready to try something new, and I have a feeling their latest mouse will be very popular for the price point. Coming in just shy of the Viper Mini in cost, the Pulsefire Haste has a lot to offer. Today, we'll find out if their first shot at an ultralight mouse was either too hasty or an outstanding achievement and a slow but steady success. But before we get started, I just want to make it clear that this mouse was sent out for review by HyperX, but you should know that all opinions here are my own, and this does not affect my review in any way. My name is Aithey, and this is the Pulsefire Haste from HyperX. The packaging you get with the mouse is pretty minimal. You get the mouse shielded in a small plastic dome, enclosed by thin cardboard. Additional accessories include grips for mouse 1 and mouse 2, and the sides, along with an extra set of mouse feet and the usual paperwork. It's really nice to see some of these extras included. The sensor here is a PMW3335 optical sensor, while the DPI steps range from 400, 800, 1600, and 3200. DPI steps are indicated by a single LED at the scroll wheel. DPI steps and polling rate cannot be adjusted further without the software, but it comes at 1000 Hz by default, while other polling options range from 125 Hz, 250 Hz, 500 Hz, and 1000 Hz at the far end. Before we dive into the software, I'd like to address something that I think is really important here. At the time of this review, the Haste software seems to be exclusive only to the Microsoft Store, which means you aren't allowed to use the software as any standalone program. While this may not seem like a huge issue for some, I can definitely see this bothering a few people, such as users still running Windows 7. There's a lot of opinions out there regarding exclusivity to certain platforms, so I figured it was important enough to bring up for whoever it may concern. While it is only exclusive to the Microsoft Store for now, hopefully things can change in the future. Another thing, upon testing my Haste for its CPI accuracy, I found that 800 DPI gave me around 720 CPI, while 1600 DPI was around 1800 CPI. Probably the biggest changes and variants I've seen when testing a mouse, though I have been informed that they're working on a fix for this, so hopefully we can see some changes in the future. Now that some of the bigger issues are out of the way, we can get deeper into the software. With the software, you're given a few options. In the first tab, you can play with RGB effects like solid colors, waves, mouse-triggered effects, cycling colors, and breathing effects. Our second tab allows you to rebind your mouse buttons to things like keyboard functions, mouse functions, multimedia, macros, and more. And the last tab, you're given the option of adjusting DPI for each step, along with their paired color modes. You're allowed 5 DPI steps at the max. Additionally, at the top right section of the software, you're able to adjust things like brightness, polling rates, and presets, which I'm assuming are profiles. You can also link these to certain games or applications by the looks of it. Really great stuff. I think this could be really useful for a lot of people. Now before we get into the buttons, here's a quick sound test. The clicks on the Haste are among some of the best I've ever felt when using a mouse. They are also split from the rest of the shell. The switches used here are TTC Gold dust-proof switches, rated for 30 million clicks. Clicks feel light but well-defined, a nice firm but crispy click with minimal pre-travel and post-travel. Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 have a raw plastic texture to them, like most of the mouse, so it's not going to be much of a fingerprint magnet, thankfully. A moment of silence for any XM1 users out there. However, there is a bit of side play on the triggers, almost equal to the XM1 RGB in side play if you're really forcing it. Side buttons use HC and HK black shell gray dot switches. The side buttons themselves have some pre-travel, with a slightly higher post-travel, less post-travel than that of the XM1. Side buttons are a bit higher on the shell than I'd like, but they're a good thickness, so this does help in this case. While I can't exactly rock my thumb into them, they're just a slight adjustment out of reach. The coating on the side and DPI buttons are also glossy, unlike the rest of the body. The encoder used here is a TTC white core. Scroll movements feel smooth, while the steps feel soft but defined. The middle click itself feels more like a soft knock than an actual click. Definitely felt weird at first, but I think I prefer the feeling of this. It's also very easy to spam click. In my opinion, this feels a lot better than the new softer middle click on the XM1 RGB. The shape of this mouse is low at the front with a small hump in the middle that lowers itself at the back. The coating of the mouse is similar to the Ultralight 2 in the sense that there is no coating used here. It feels like a raw plastic with a single HyperX logo on the left side. I also much prefer mice without the side holes, which is nice to see here. The grips included with the Haste aren't too bad, but they're still just okay. While they're not as grippy as something like the Hotline V2 grips, they're close and pretty solid compared to most stock grip offerings in other mouse packages. They don't come close to lizard skins though. These are also 0.5 millimeters in thickness. The stock cable here feels pretty solid. While not anywhere near the quality of the XM1 V2, it's still a really great cable. Unlike most stock paracord-like cables, this is one of the few I can't really feel when swinging my mouse left and right with big movements. Interestingly enough, I've seen some people's Haste cables come with the stress relief tilted down, which is odd. I was lucky enough to have my stress relief tilted up at an angle, thankfully. In terms of mouse feet, I'm not a huge fan of the feet used here. They're using PTFE feet, and while the glide feels okay and they are rounded, I was met with some resistance when it came to making fine micro adjustments. I would definitely replace these. According to my scale, the mouse weighs in at about 60 grams with a bit of cable, and 62 grams with all of the grips applied. While the shell here comes in an ultralight form factor, the quality on the shell here feels on par with something like the XM1. Really solid all around. I can't get any flexing or creaking regardless of where I put pressure on the mouse. Build quality here seems really strong. In any case you're trying to get inside of the mouse, the shell is held together by 4 screws, each hidden under the mouse feet. Thankfully, you do get a second set of feet included, which is awesome. It's still not great that you risk destroying the original feet, but it's much better than nothing. The shell comes apart pretty easily after you've removed the screws, and there are no cables tied to the top of the shell. It's easy to say that HyperX has done some amazing work here when it comes to their first real take at an ultralight. But I do think that they need to iron out some of these kinks regarding the DPI and CPI deviation, which from what I've been told, they are working on it. If they really want this mouse to stand out among some of the best in the competition, these changes definitely need to be made. I think HyperX has put together a really solid product here that could easily take the top spot for a lot of people. And I'm hopeful that they have plans for even more shapes with quality like this in the future. While HyperX has never really been on my radar for gaming mice in the past, they'll definitely be a company to watch out for now.